AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Your favorite local grocery stores like Kroger, Ralph's, Fred Meyer, and more are now delivering on Uber Eats. Get 40% off your order of fresh, quality ingredients. Whether you just got home to an empty fridge or suddenly got a craving to whip up something new, you can get everything you need delivered in as little as 25 minutes. Get 40% off your order with code Kroger2026. Plus, members get $0 delivery fees. Order now on Uber Eats. Orders of $30 or more save up to $25. Ends 4/30/26. See app for details.
I look out my window and I see my neighbor, Doug. Poor, lazy, deplorable Doug.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and how's the financial independence journey changing? Amy Minkley hosts the Financial Independence Freedom Retreat in Bali, and today she's visiting Mom's Basement for a wide-ranging discussion on the state of FI. In our headline segment, how's that emergency fund? Today we'll nerd out with you about spiking the interest rate, keeping enough in there but not too much, and more. And of course, along with all that gold, I'll share some of my gold-plated trivia. And speaking of gold, here come two guys who are turning more silver than gold, if you know what I mean. Joe and O-J-J-J-J-G.
Hey there, Stackers. Welcome to Wednesday. Super happy that you're here because, man, do we have an action-packed show for you. But in this crew, I think I was, because I've been friends with both of you guys for a long time. I think I was the first one to really get more silver. Doug, you've had little silver things in the side of your head for a long time, but now it's
where
very
you're going
much.
with this.
Well, you did.
What?
I mean, just
what are you doing?
Silver highlights. Like little, did you have those done by your hairdresser, or was it
But now
like
it's,
you just naturally?
It's very much. Is that where you were going? Like now it's all?
It's a lot of silver. Look at OG. Remember what a little, boyish face he had back when we started?
I actually had right in the front, that doesn't exist anymore, but right in the front, even in high school, I had a gray patch in high school, right in the front.
Welcome to Male Pattern Baldness for the Win podcast. I think this was the only profession, personal finance, financial advising, where I was like, how soon can I get gray hair? Like how soon? And I was so happy to see it. And you
don't think doctors think the same thing?
Maybe, yes. But I'm just saying, this is that type of field where I'm like, oh, thank goodness, I'm getting glasses. This will be great.
If I can't earn respect the real way, I'll get it through visuals.
I'm going to at least look the part.
Yes.
Well, a woman who doesn't need to focus on looking the part, because she certainly is the part of financial independence. She retired at an early age, but Amy Minkley, too busy to sit around. And we've always talked about that's not what retirement's about anyway. She now runs the FI Freedom Retreat, Financial Independence Freedom Retreat. I was lucky enough to keynote the first one. It's in Bali, where she lives, and she was visiting the United States just recently. So I sat down with her here in Mom's Basement and chatted with her about the state of financial planning and the state of the world of financial independence and how she looks at it differently now that she's really been in the community. What's the community focused on versus what was she focused on? We talk a lot about that. It's a wide-ranging, fun conversation for anybody who looks at reaching financial independence is more of a community journey. So we got our interview with Amy waiting in the wings, but before that, we got a couple sponsors who help us keep on keeping on, and then the amazing, incredible creator of the FI Freedom Retreat, Amy Minkley, joins us right after this. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high-quality, everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow-knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable. Basically, the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow-knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, "That is my favorite sweater on you." It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. We're super happy that she's here and not in Mom's basement. We're actually in the front room today. Amy Minkley joins us.
So excited to be here. Thank you, Joe.
I am super excited. You came halfway around the world just to see us.
Just for this interview right here.
That's a lie that I will believe any day, sister. I know it's a lie, but I don't care. I like it anyway. You are someone that I met at your first Camp Fi. It was also my first Camp Fi. So even though you had been following financial independence people, financial independence community, this was as new to you as it was to me. But we got there in different ways. I was dragged. kicking and screaming. When Stephen Boyer, that created these wonderful events, told me, he's like, we're going to go to a retreat center where you're going to have a roommate. I'm like, okay, full stop. No. And then second, not only will you have a roommate, you're going to be sleeping on a bed where some teenager sleeps at some, church camp retreat.
Right.
And it's going to be like a 1/4-inch thick mattress. I'm like, I am way too old and bougie for this stuff. But I had a wonderful time. How did you get to your first community event?
Well, I found the FI movement when I was living in Bangkok, and I was hearing about all the FI events. And I think it was in the midst of the pandemic. So I was already feeling a little isolated,
Sure.
working online,
Yeah.
really nervous, wanting to quit my job and really nervous about my numbers, and hearing about Camp FI and economy on all these podcasts and thinking, I want to go. But we're in the middle of a lockdown, and I bought a ticket to Camp FI, and then I had to cancel it. And then finally, when I got there, after quitting my job in October of 2021, I was so excited. And then meeting the community confirmed just how I felt about this movement, and it really spurred me on in my journey. I was so inspired that I attended 5 more events that year. So it was,
6 in your first year.
Yeah, yes.
Might be a problem.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying.
A little bit of an addiction. But,
Slightly addicted.
There's worse things to be addicted to.
But no, 100%. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I do think that being around like-minded people, especially when it comes to this money community, which is so misunderstood by so many people, I think is wonderful. But you go to this first thing. What are you expecting? What are you solving for? Like in your head, what is Amy thinking that she needs that she doesn't get, that she's going to plug in by being around this group of people?
I had deep dived on all the podcasts, audiobooks, books, everything, blogs. I felt like getting around people who were on the FIRE journey or already FI would give me just some personal, anecdotal hope for my own journey. And then also someone to actually look at my numbers. And, I know I can hire someone to look at my numbers, but I feel like having conversations there with people and hearing what they're talking about would inspire me on my own journey. And it certainly did.
What was your gut feeling? Was your gut feeling that your numbers were good or your numbers were bad? Or didn't you have one?
I felt like I was a little bit, like I was kind of on the edge. I retired with a little bit less than my number, anticipating that I could find some way to earn some money. And I ended up meeting someone at that FI event where I started teaching online, doing executive function coaching for kids with ADHD.
Wow.
So I got a job at that first event.
Wow.
And then I was also inspired to I want to do something like this and create this on the side of the world that I live on, and give people an opportunity to travel to Bali, and maybe, people who live on that side of the world to come to an event without having to fly to the U.S. A lot came out of that event. I quit, because I was burned out, and also because my dad had a stroke. And I really realized, I don't want to be tied to the school schedule anymore. I was an international school teacher, living on the opposite side of the world. My numbers were a little on the lean side, but there was one woman at the event who sat down with me on the Sunday night and made me feel a lot more sure about my numbers. If I could find a way to even bring in $10,000 a year, what that looked like over time, compounded. If I'm drawing down $10,000 less from my portfolio every year, what a difference that can make. And that really reassured me. It's not that hard to earn $10,000 a year. So yeah, I didn't have a huge cushion when I quit.
What you're solving for then, it sounds like to me, is not so much the money. You want to verify the money. You're solving for time maybe then to be around your dad? Is that what you're solving for?
Yeah, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Because if I wouldn't have quit, he passed in 2024. But if I wouldn't have quit that year, I got 9 months that year with my dad. I got to move him and spend a lot of time with him, move him close to the rest of my family. I'm never going to regret that time. If I would have worked one more year.
But that's interesting, because I often feel like a lot of people are solving to get away from something, to get away from. In fact, I was fielding calls on Paula Pant Show, Afford Anything, earlier today. And one of the questions was, I want to get out of teaching. Paula and I both answered, it's not about getting out of teaching. It's about what is the next adventure, right? What is the thing? Because until we know what that is, it's very difficult to solve the money. If the money follows the thing, it's great. If we try to just have enough money so that I can get the hell out of here, well, then why. Why are you getting out of here? But it sounds like you had a pretty strong why. Mm-hmm. So you get to spend that time with your dad. You still then have this time freedom. What were you solving for after that?
I mean, I was lit up by the idea of creating an event. Like, how could I create the feeling that I left that first Camp FI with for other people who maybe hadn't had the opportunity to do that? And then also, how could I share, I'd lived in Bali for several years before I took the job in Bangkok. Like, how could I share my love of Bali and this place that I wanted to live as well?
Where does this come from? Is this your teaching background? Is it that teaching people lights you up?
Yeah, lesson planning and creating learning experiences is my background, and organizing events. And I used to lead kids on trips to the Himalayas and do fun things like that. So yeah, it definitely comes from, I think, my natural skill set, my natural love of being around people, and then my love of the Balinese culture. Like, how can I show people a side of Bali that they wouldn't get to see if they were just a tourist there?
It's like you're creating Austin, Texas is known for fusion. Mm-hmm. I feel like Amy Minkley's creating her own financial independence fusion.
Yeah, it is, because it's a combination of adventure, financial independence. A lot of the talk is really about purpose and community and giving back. That's one thing I'm really passionate about, is like, how can I give back to Bali? I really hope that people walk away from my event with a more clear idea of like their life and their purpose, and how can they give back and have adventure and live their best life with community.
One thing I learned from you very clearly at the retreat that first year was, since you and I first met, I've been on this quest to find out what makes a better retirement, right? And I've been doing all of this research and a lot of my talks now. And this idea of your community and your backyard and this idea of giving back, but it truly helps you. And the thing that I really took home from that, even though you want me to be in love with the Balinese culture, what I got from that was how important it was to you, and how important it should be for me to be in love with my local culture here in my backyard in Texarkana. Yeah. And I am so much more involved in Texarkana than I was before I went to the FI Freedom Retreat. And I got to tell you, Amy, it was transformative. It was just, I feel so much happier, even though on paper, if I were solving for Roth strategies, okay, that would be great. But solving for more happiness, I have incredibly more happiness now because I'm looking at what's going on in my backyard. But you being a transplant in Bali, how do you know plenty of expats that never leave their backyard and just hang out with European people in Bali. How did you get involved? I mean, it's one thing for me to go to a Rotary meeting in Texarkana, right? With a bunch of people who look kind of like me and dress kind of like me. But to go to this culture, which is so foreign from the way that you were brought up, how did you begin to make those connections?
I feel like the Balinese people in general are so warm and welcoming. Bali does have quite a good number of expats, but because they've got such a rich culture, because they still live in tribal societies, they have a chief, they do ceremony 220 days a year, morning prayers and evening prayers and offerings. Like, they are very well connected to each other, and they have a very strong sense of their culture and pride in their culture. And yet, because they're so connected to their culture, I believe it brings a generosity of spirit and a warmness to them.
But how did you get connected to that warmth?
I got connected to them. Well, I think it's just natural. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, Balinese people, when my friends talk about Balinese people as well, I would say that they have good Balinese friends as well. Not everybody does that. Maybe some people just hang out with expats, but I think, of course, it would be a huge missing for me if I wasn't deeply connected to the culture. So I feel like just by meeting, landlords and then their friends and getting invited to the daughter's 5th birthday, or the 5 months when their feet first touch the ground for, they're carried around until 5 months old, all the special, they have a teeth filing ceremony. They have all these interesting ceremonies. As you get to know them, you get invited to these cultural celebrations.
But did you just go out and meet your neighbors? Were you at community events?
Mostly through landlords, getting to know the families, and they become my family and they are my family. Like I definitely have a Balinese
Your
family.
landlord being a Balinese person.
Yes.
And then you get to know them.
Yeah. And they are my family.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know all the extended family. And
that's so wild because
Yeah.
I mean, that idea of renting to somebody and being their family is way different. I mean, like, you know, the rule of thumb back when we were doing a real estate podcast was do not get close to your tenant.
Right.
Because if you get close to your tenant, then you're going to believe every sob story and you're never going to make any money.
Right. Most of my friends who I think of, it's people that I've rented from in the past or my current landlords. I mean, we signed a 25-year lease, so we're there for good. But then Ibu Sari, particularly, that I was telling you about, who's helped 1,000 women escape domestic violence and poverty. She is a friend of a friend, so an American friend who introduced me to her just because of the incredible work she's doing. I was looking to get involved in Bali and how could I give back, and my friend introduced me to her.
I get excited about that. I get so excited about helping. Well, when I was there and heard about her mission and just how important it is, but I was equally as excited about the fact that plugging into your backyard and doing this, quote, giving back thing and what strength it gives you as an individual. And that sounds kind of takey, but you can't go into it like, what's in it for me? But what's amazing is a byproduct of it was there was way more in it for me than I thought that there ever would be. There was way, way, way more in it for me. Do you feel like enough people are solving for that they're solving for that brand of happiness, this giver mentality of happiness?
I think the 5 movement's talking about it more. Like Ryan Brennan, who was at that first retreat in 2023 in Bali, and he started the 5 Service Corps. We had a breakout session, which was the most popular breakout session, which was generosity and giving back. And, we had a whole session on that. Ibu Sari spoke with us about what she was doing in Bali. And then he took that and ran with that. He's coming back to Bali this year and leading a 5 Service Corps volunteer opportunity in Bali. They're building houses. They're doing things all over the U.S. And, I have seen people like I'm thinking about Tanya, who was there our first year. You interviewed her Stacking Benjamins.
Yes.
She's really gotten involved in the food banks. I do see it anecdotally when I think about my friends who've come to the event, like giving back and getting involved in their local community. Yeah.
You don't talk about something that is, I feel like we're a little bit obsessive compulsive about in the financial independence community, which is optimization, right? I'm going to optimize my travel points. I'm going to optimize my tax strategy. I'm going to optimize you don't really emphasize any of that at the 5 Freedom Retreat. How come?
Well, partly because we've got people from all over the world, or like the last event, about 8 countries. And so we wouldn't go into tax savings optimization or Roth conversion.
Roth what?
Yeah, exactly. People can do that in the breakout topics at lunches and dinners. You can choose whatever topic you want to and put a placard on a table and have those conversations. And you can do it also in the official breakout sessions. And because the retreat's longer, there's plenty of ample time hanging out by the pool or, on the bus going to the Water Temple Blessing or any of those things to have those conversations, because we have a lot of calls beforehand too. So you really start to think about, if you wanted to talk about tax optimization, who do you want to have that conversation with? So people can have those individual conversations at the retreat, but that's never going to be the main stage speakers' topics, because it wouldn't be relevant to the whole audience. We are talking about like optimizing our life and optimizing for happiness and how do we live our best post-FI life, those kind of things, but not the heavy nuts and bolts strategies for, money.
Let's talk even before people are financially independent, trying to find people that are motivated to have these big savings rates of 30% that maybe will forego an expensive dinner out for more dinners at home that they value but are much less expensive. They start making these value-based decisions. We don't see that a lot around us.
Right.
There's this little bit of loneliness on this path. Mm-hmm. I also feel like when you're going to these events, it's like you're almost recharging the battery. How many financial independence events have you been to?
I think 23.
It's like a drug.
Not like I'm counting or anything.
But there's got to be a little bit of recharge the battery, because I do feel like there is this theme. Well, there's a broader theme in life, Amy. I think for all of us is there's a little bit of loneliness with life, and finding that group of people that are headed the same way is super important.
Yeah. For me, it was scary to walk away from my job, lose my social network, lose my identity, and then to be able to connect back in with a community of people who have time freedom and financial freedom, like, oh, let's go travel. Let's meet in Australia, or let's go to Europe together, after the retreat. Like, I see that a lot. People ask me, my mom asked me particularly, like, why do you keep going back to these events? You've been to 23. What else can you learn?
I think you probably got it down now, Amy.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not going for, I always do learn something new that I didn't know. And I always do walk away inspired. But mostly I'm going to deepen friendships with people that I already, have long friendships with, and some of my best friends in my life that I've just met since I started going to these events, and also to meet new and inspiring people. So I get a lot out of the events.
But is there a lesson here also about the way that you spend time with people? Because I think also part of the magic isn't just the shared values. I think there's a lot more people out there that have our shared values, but we don't know it because social media pulls us apart. The press pulls us apart. Everybody's pulling us apart because of a financial agenda, right? It's better for the algorithm if we yell at each other. Is part of the magic just spending extended periods of time with these people who in real life, in a million years, you might not be friends with this person, but because you spent 4 days with them 24/7, like you give yourself a chance to know somebody who might not be like you.
What I've learned, and just from traveling and living abroad for over 2 decades now, people are really wonderful. It's easy to be confused when or disgruntled when I watch the news, but most people are incredibly wonderful. And if I just listen to them listen to them, like, what can they teach me? Like, I am amazed by people who sit on the other side of the political aisle for me, and people who feel differently about the world than me. Like, everybody has something to teach me, I feel. And so I do find that people who come on the retreat, like, they are people that I would be friends with, even though they're, I think about Emma. She's so much younger than me, but she's super wise, and she's been on a lot of...
Our friend Emma from Kansas City.
Yes.
Hey, Emma.
Van Wisey. But I met her when she was in her early 20s, and I've got friends who are several decades older than me.
Right.
So,
she's an old wise soul, though.
She is.
Emma, you're an old wise soul.
She is. In that sense, it's like I've got friends in all age brackets from different parts of the world because of the FI community. And so I wouldn't have necessarily met them, but I really genuinely like them. And there are a lot of common values.
Yeah, it is. Well, we can find those 2 or 3 things that are our common values. Then those places where we're different get us to stop yelling at each other and start. It's funny. Somebody on the show once said, it changes everything, where instead of going, Amy, why the hell do you believe that? Turn that into a question, go, why do you believe that? And all of a sudden, then you give them an opportunity to explain, and then you realize that this person isn't nearly as from the moon as you thought that they were, because you gave them an opportunity. I want to touch on teaching, because I feel like when you first started the 5 for Your Freedom Retreat, like a lot of the big voices were saying some things in the zeitgeist, and those have kind of moved over time. And one thing I've seen lately a lot has been this idea of downplaying one of the things that used to be kind of a tenet. A tenet used to be get out and get time freedom as fast as you can. Now it feels like it's much more, if you are just running away from a job and you're looking at that minimum, that safe withdrawal rate very closely, and the second that you hit it, you decide, I'm done, I'm checking out, and now I'm financially independent. Now I'm seeing that might be a mistake. And that's because the stock market might change. That's because health insurance costs, we just saw go up. We also have had a big lesson on inflation in the last few years, right? So many things can change that if you check out and you barely are making it, like, you could be in trouble. And I feel like on the scientific end, believe it or not, everybody, I'm getting to the question. On the scientific end, well, that makes sense. Okay, we've got all this new data that we didn't have. But I also kind of feel like we're solving for something a little different now. It feels to me, Amy, like when we first started out, it was like, how quickly can we check out? It doesn't seem like that's what we're solving for anymore as much. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah. I feel like we're solving for, like, enjoying the journey, finding happiness along the way, enjoying the moment, much less than like, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, once I hit my FI number, then it's all going to be unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
And we know that's not true, because we've seen so many people speak openly about what is, like, the real existential crisis that can happen sometimes. And if we've taken time to, like, maybe downgrade and go to part-time work and, find ways to de-stress our lives and enjoy the journey to FI. And then when we quit our jobs. We can also continue to work somewhat, some hours if we like, it's a much more balanced approach. And I think leads to ultimate more long-term happiness.
Well, and that is a question, right? People that don't understand like a creator journey or a creator mindset are asking right now, okay, you already said you're financially independent. You already said that you got out of your job. Why the hell put as much time into creating this thing since you're already financially independent?
Because it brings me so much joy. I love having people come to Bali. I love showing off the culture. I love taking people on adventures. I love showing them a side that they wouldn't be able to see otherwise if they just came as a tourist.
You like watching me cry at the end?
Exactly. That was the best. That was the best. Like if nothing
Joe
else,
cry.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I would be bored, honestly, and I have a really great life. I mean, I exercise every day, and I've got incredible friends of expats and Balinese people around me that have a lot of free time too. Not so much Balinese because they have a lot of ceremonies, but my expat friends have.
They're busy with their ceremonies.
They're busy with their ceremonies and their kids and their family and their village But yeah, I've got an incredible community around me. But still, if I'm just exercising every day and doing all the classes and things that I love to do in Bali, I need something that excites me. I need to create something. I need to feel like I'm giving back. And the feedback I've gotten has been phenomenal. And then, giving back to Ibu Sari, this wonderful woman in the charity that the FI community has. I don't know if you know, like how much money we've raised in the last 2 years.
It's exciting.
Yeah. $57,000.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal for her to, instead of paying rent for all those safe houses she had before, she's able to buy land and build. What a gift. That's going to affect generations upon generations of Balinese kids and women. So it moves me. Like this community is so generous. They volunteer not only in their neighborhood, but also to give to like a charity like this halfway across the world.
Yeah. Yeah. This can change somebody's life that you will never meet.
Yes. And then it's cool that people will come, like sometimes we've had repeat people come back and they see, they're going to get to see what this incredible place that was built for all these women and children. So it's good to be able to, I feel a sense of purpose.
More than you did when you first started?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. How getting your feet moving, I feel, and all the studies show this. If you're not sure what your purpose is, just start moving. Mm-hmm. And the more you move, the more you find it. I have people that push back to me, and I think it's because purpose freaks them out. Mm-hmm. When they hear our mutual friend, Doc G, talk about purpose, or when I echo that or you echo that, and people write me so angry, Amy, like, you don't need purpose to retire. You do not need it. All the evidence suggests that you do, but it shouldn't freak you out.
Right. It doesn't have to be big, right? It can just be, how do you make people feel? How do you give back in small ways?
What's it Jordan, Doc G says, a little p purpose.
Little p purpose, right? And that makes such a difference too, right? And you don't have to know it, right? You just try things like throw spaghetti at the wall. I think Doc G talks about that as one of the methods. It's like, think about what you loved as a child, try some different things, see what sticks,
I just think about the 3 factors that go into an unhappy retirement, which is lack of community, loneliness, and lack of purpose. How much just attending an event like yours can hit all 3 of those.
Yeah.
Can change all 3 of those buckets and can truly be transformative. So here's to you, Amy Minkley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out here specifically just to see me.
All the way from Bali.
All the way. And I know it's a lie, but I'll believe it anyway. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm Andy Dwyer. And when I'm not pulling suckers off my tomato plants in my garden, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and what a precious conversation that was with Amy. We're such fans of Amy's work, it sparkles. You could say that interview was gold. But here's a question. With gold doing well in 2025, what you might not know is most precious metals were a little more precious than they've been in recent memory. So here's today's question. Which precious metal was most precious and had the top return? I'll be back right after I go ask Joe's mom if cubic zirconium has now gone up in value. My collection could make me a bajillionaire like overnight.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken. the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm your most precious podcast announcer guy and a man who can easily be described as podcast gold right here, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Today, with such a precious interview with Amy Minkley, we thought we'd shine a light on precious metals, which had a moment last year, but here was the question: which precious metal cha-chinged the cash register the most? If you said gold, well, that'd be fool's gold, because the winning answer is silver. Silver, often called the devil's metal because of its volatility, was up over 150% by December of 2025. And now back to two guys who are the platinum veneer of this podcast, Joe and OG.
It was an amazing interview with Amy. Thank you so much to Amy Minkley for dropping by while she was in the United States. It was so nice to see her again and to get her take. What's funny, OG, that strikes me is talking to Amy just over the years, not just of us doing the podcast, but your time spent with clients, the amount of change that occurs in your life because of, I guess, the thoughtful interactions about what financial independence means and what it doesn't mean. And I don't know about you, but clearly for me, there's this melding of saving for tomorrow, which I think people think that's what financial planning is, and doing it more efficiently, which we talk about a lot on the show, but also doing the stuff today. Like tomorrow is just not assured. So man, I gotta do this stuff now. That's what's really changed for me during this journey. What would you say is different for you from the time between the time you became a financial planner and today?
I would say something very similar in the sense that over the last 25 years, planning has really been pushed to the forefront, right? Some commoditization of products and costs and, that sort of stuff has made that part of the business that's the easy stuff. And now most of the focus is on planning. But I think it's even more than just the old school retirement planning and more just lifetime planning. The number of people that we work with now that are, taking sabbaticals or an early retirement, knowing full well, hey, I'm just retiring from this job and I'm going to go back to work in a period of time, and are doing so openly, knowing I have to still stay on top of my skill set. I can't sail away for 5 years and come back and go, I used to be in computers, so I can be in computers again, right? And it's like, well, 5 years is a long time in tech, right? Or whatever. So I think the number of people that are consciously doing that has expanded quite a bit. I say this very famously, like I'm planning on living to be 140 so that I can see my kids turn 100. And the benefit of that is I don't have to save any money right now because I can start retirement savings like in a really long time because I still have like 100 years.
Procrastination becomes a real thing, like a benefit.
Yeah, it's, there's a little bit, it's a little tongue in cheek because I am doing some retirement savings. But when you look at your life as, let's say from adulthood to ending as a continuum and a nonstop evolution of stuff that you're doing, there's periods of time where you're making money and saving money, and there's periods of time where you're spending money and consuming it. but it's not like a break where it's like, okay, I am now done earning money and now I'm just doing this. I would say the number of people that are in the community that we have interacted with over these 1,800 some odd hours of time that we've been doing this, it's like the people who have said, okay, I'm done earning money from this, and now I earn some money from this, and I do something like this, and this occasionally, I earn some money from this. I don't earn any money from. This is a consumption area of my life. It's more of a lifetime plan as opposed to a retirement plan of I'm going to accumulate, done, move on the second section of my life. That's probably the biggest change over the last quarter century or so.
That's been the change you've seen professionally, but what about for you personally, this changed? I think financial planning led me more to lifestyle planning in general, not taking it for granted that my day was going to work the way that I wanted to, like thinking more about what my priorities were with my time and then melding the money around that prioritization of what I valued. Like that's way different than when I was in my 20s. And I was just thinking about those as two totally different things that would never touch.
I think personally in the financial planning space, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about retirement. I don't spend a lot of time focusing on that. I really solve around our personal life, around personal benefit, personal outcome. You know what I mean?
Personal life satisfaction.
Yeah, maybe that's a good way of putting it. Like, what can I do that I just want to, like I would do anyway, but I can do in a better way, or something that provides a better experience for the people around me? Or how can I make this experience better for me overall? Time is probably a big focus, like how much time I spend doing different things. There's some stuff that I can't control. Like, for example, right now I'm doing this bicycle training for this event that I'm doing in July, and there's no way to speed that up. There is no substitute for just sitting there and pedaling your bike for hours on end. I've tried to AI this and figure out like, what's the hack? How can I hack my way to this? It's like the hack is you just do more of it. That's the hack. So that's forcing me to reprioritize other stuff. You know what I mean? Because there's like now this big block in my calendar that is a huge amount of time that I have to spend. It's immovable. It's a big rock. And so like, what are the other things around it that I can fill in? So I think a lot more in seasons around that stuff. Like that's this busy season for that. But when that race is over in July, like I'm sure I'll still cycle, but I'll probably not do 15 hours a week of it anymore. And like, then it will be my other season of activity that I do. I think the priority for me is really around life optimization and less a focus on, are we maxing out whatever, or whatever.
100%.
To me, it's about maxing out life, I think is probably a better way to say it.
Yeah, which leads you to max out the Roth or max out the whatever. You don't do it to max it out because that's what you heard or that's the good money move. You do it as a result of the lifestyle design. It's so funny because I remember early in my career as a financial planner, just when people would talk lifestyle design, I'd be like, let's get to the fun stuff, managing the money. And now I'm like, the lifestyle design truly is the fun stuff. And I think when Benjamin Brandt was on earlier, and I've shown this clip, when I go speaking around the country, it just is so true what you're saying, that why wait for the future to do these things? Why am I waiting for this unicorns and rainbows to happen in the far distance when I should be working on this now? So interesting discussion. By the way, we're going to be talking about, speaking of retirement planning, next Wednesday night, there's actually a movie that's up for an Academy Award about retirement planning. It's called Retirement Plan. I believe that it's been put out by the people behind The New Yorker. It's a 7-minute film. We're going to do a screening on YouTube of the full 7 minutes with our friends, Tom and Don from Retire Meet. They put on the Retire Meet conference. They are the two guys around a show we love called Talking Real Money. These guys are going to join us as our special guest for a special YouTube screening. How often does a show about retirement planning actually make it to the Academy Awards? So we got to celebrate that moment, but we're going to dive into your retirement plan. It's March 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That way we can get everybody across the nation, across the United States in on this, as many people as possible. Details at stackingbenjamins.com/movie. So join us for that. All right, let's do our headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
We're just going to spend a few minutes on our headline today because it's a continuation of what we talked about on Monday, OG. Monday, we were talking about more people taking hardship withdrawals, more people borrowing from their 401ks. We talked about the dangers of that on Monday, but we also talked about setting up tripwires and some important, strategies you can use, tactics you can use to make sure that if life starts going the wrong way, you can get there soon enough that you don't have to raid the 401k. But let's talk about the emergency fund now. They say the big they say that you need between 3 and 6 months.
It's the royal they, by the way.
Some people, which Doug would say is him.
I was going to say, it's me.
And some people even say longer than 6 months, but there's a big difference between a 3-month emergency fund, 6-month emergency fund. How do we determine the right amount to have for us when you're sitting down with a client? What are the things people need to think about to get the right amount in that emergency fund for them?
Well, I think the first thing that you want to do is figure out exactly what your obligations are on a monthly basis. The biggest thing is to be judicious around what are the things that are non-negotiable. Like, for example, you have to pay your mortgage payment. You have to pay your car payment. You have to have food on the table and your electric bill and so on and so forth. So once you know what that number is, then you can start saying, okay, now where would I take that money from if I needed it in the next month? Most of us would say, oh, well, I'll just earn it. I get paid $10,000 a month and my monthly expenses are 8. So therefore I'm good. Like, as long as that 10 is coming in, the 8 can go out. As you're trying to evaluate, should I have 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or 2 years worth as you get closer probably toward retirement? I think you have to be honest with yourself around what's the worst that can happen. If you're an entrepreneur and your job is your life and everything's fairly stable, I think there's a reasonable case for having a smaller cash reserve. If you don't owe anybody a lot of money and your monthly expenses are food and property taxes because your house is all paid off and you don't have any debt, there's a case for a smaller emergency fund there. And depending on the asset level that you have in other areas too. I mean, I've seen people that say, well, I don't need to have 3 months of cash reserve or 6 months. I can have 3 because every quarter I get enough dividends from my brokerage account that I could just flip that onto cash. And that would be 3 months worth of emergency funds right there. Like, I have enough brokerage account assets that produce enough cash flow to fund that without making withdrawals. So it largely depends on how stable your income is, what the worst case scenario is about your income.
Like how easy it would be to get another job, you're saying.
That, or, the state of the economy, all that sort of stuff, I think is fair to judge. And then really your relationship with all the other resources in your life. If you say, well, I'm good, I've got a $500,000 line of credit on the house and $2 million in my 401k. It's like, well, okay, that's not really an emergency fund. I mean, that's an okay fallback plan if it all goes really haywire in a hurry. But I wouldn't want to use any of those things as emergency money for your very risky jobless security, job security list. Maybe that's where I put the less is after the security. That would cause me to have a little bit more. Equally detrimental, by the way, is having too much cash reserve. There's plenty of people out there who have the skies falling all the time type of mentality and say, well, no, you don't understand. In 27 years, we might take the kids to Disney, so I should probably have that money set aside. And it's like, okay, that's just lining up the goal with the wrong bucket. You should definitely account for that if that's in your plan, but you need to make sure that the goal and the time frame is lined up correctly with the right bucket of money. So I would generally say for the vast majority of people, 6 months is probably on the very low end. I think most people would benefit by having a year. If you're ticking down towards 6, 5, 4, 3 months, 3 months is not a long time.
It is not a long time.
It is, especially in the way the economy is and job search and stuff like that. I think
that's general. It's the job search part. It's how, and which is so variable for so many different professions.
100% it is.
Look at how much more variable it is now than 2 years ago.
Right. It's how long do you think on the conservative side, do you think it's going to take you to find new employment, or whether it's in your field or not, to replace that income?
Yeah.
When there's all kinds of levels of that, right? I mean, you might have to end up going to get a part-time job or something out of your field, but that is more readily had from an income, which reduces your burn rate on your however much your emergency fund is. I'm a little bit apprehensive. Maybe this is my own personal fears coming out, OG, but when you say, a year is right, I mean, that makes a lot of people choke, because how the heck am I going to come up with a year's worth of expenses? That's going to take me 10 years, 15 years to get a year's worth of expenses into an account and then never touch it.
Yeah.
Well,
probably.
It seems, okay. How do we make people feel better about getting started on that? Because that seems like unobtainium.
Well, before we get to that, there's a mistake people make that I've found in the past. They look at the amount of money they make top line and they think about expenses. They don't get into what are the drop dead expenses that I have. Not what am I making, what am I having fun with, like the whole barrel. It's actually a much smaller amount of money that I think that a lot of people think that it is when they first think about it. It's like, oh my God, there's no way. Well, number one, it's easy. It still ain't easy. But back to Doug's question, OG, how do you think about that in relation to saving toward your other goals? Do you do that first, or do you do it concurrently with all of your other saving that you're doing?
I mean, I would have it be concurrent with all the other saving. You have to take advantage of the free money in your 401k and the tax deferral benefits of HSAs and Roths and that sort of thing. But you can't do that at the expense of not having money available to you today, So yeah, if you're 20 years old, 25 years old, and you're just getting started, this is going to take you 10 years to do, probably, like you said, Doug. That's okay. It's going to take you 40 years to save for retirement. Like, this is a bargain in the grand scheme of things. The problem is that some of the stuff that you said, Doug, I think propagates. Is that the word I want to use?
It propagates.
Propagate?
I don't know. You got to finish the rest of the sentence before I know if that's
No, you should tell
correct.
me if it's the word I want to use.
I don't know yet. I think it's not. I think there's a high likelihood it's not the word you want.
It continues to tell the story, the incorrect story. How's that? Of like, this isn't possible, so therefore I shouldn't do it. And the problem is that if you look at emergency funds as a waste of time, or I'm losing out, I mean, you just said it with a ton of emotion. Like, I've got all this money sitting in there. It's not doing anything. It is doing stuff. It's doing the thing that makes it so that you can do the rest of your investment plan. If you don't have cash, if you don't have stuff set aside in short-term buckets, and all you have is long-term money, you run a substantial risk of having to take money out of your long-term bucket at the exact wrong time. Nobody gets laid off during the greatest bull market in American history. That doesn't exist. It happens when the economy is in a giant sinkhole and everything that can go wrong is going wrong economically, in your job, in your life, in your family. And then also you get laid off and your account's down 35%. And you go, well, I didn't have any cash because cash was stupid because, Doug said it was on the podcast.
Once again, OG's a bucket of sunshine.
Well, no, it's having cash is the thing that allows you to invest money into your stock portfolio. If you don't have that, you can't do the other thing, because the risk associated with investing, why everybody thinks investing is risky, is because you don't align the timeframes with your goals correctly. And the people who get burned in investing get burned because they take money out of their portfolio when the market's down. And the reason they took it out when the market was down was because they didn't have the right buckets aligned with the right time frame.
Meaning they thought it was today money when it really was 10 years from now money.
Or they didn't have any today money and said, I don't need any of this because I got a line of credit on the house or I got credit cards, so I don't need to have any cash reserve. I only need 10-year money. Right. And then the bank calls and goes, hey, by the way, we're not renewing that line because the economy is in tank and your house is worth 30% less than it was when we wrote it the first time. Or your credit card company goes, hey, we noticed that your balance has been increasing. You've always paid on time, which is great. We appreciate that. But you used to pay the full balance and now you pay the minimum payment. Something's amiss. So our algos caught that and we reduced your line of credit from 20 to 10. And you go, but 10 is the current balance. I was planning on using the other 10 because I've been out of a job for a month and I need to spend. They go, we don't care. We're not your savior. We're here for convenience purposes. We're not taking the L because you didn't plan correctly. So cash gives you the flexibility to go slowly with all that stuff.
Yeah, there are so many points there that I want to highlight. The first one,
Good.
when you
I
were
finally
talking
did something right. All right.
You did a lot right there, brother. A few things. Number one is this idea of my line of credit on my house and using credit. We saw what happened, or maybe people didn't see what happened with credit in 2007 and 2008, where the bank went, we're not going to keep that line of credit anymore. If you're relying on a line of credit for your emergency fund, the bank will take that away. You don't own that. You lease that property. They own that property and the ability to give you money. Just because you have it open today and it's X amount of money today, we've already seen it proven historically that that's not always the case.
I mean, look, I have told this story before and I will tell it till I'm blue in the face. We were the people that always had the credit card maxed out. Like we would make the payment and then it would go back up to max. And we'd make the payment and it would go back up to max, right? We did that repeatedly. And when we went to move, I made a huge payment so that I would have a big open line so that I could charge the movers, and I had to stay in some hotels and all that sort of stuff. And literally the day we made that payment, we got an email from Discover and they went, "Hey, we've updated your line of credit." And they updated it down half because I made half. The credit limit was 15. I made a $7,000 payment. Our new credit limit was 8,000. Immediately. There was no 5 sec. I called them and I was like, what the heck? I need this money. They're like, yeah, well, tough.
Yeah.
There was no, so now I didn't have the $7,000 and I didn't have the $7,000 line of credit. So now I was double hurt.
But then when you have that money set aside, using that as your first tripwire to see that expenses have changed, and you go after that money versus your long-term money, that's fantastic because it tells you, okay, the budget's not working the way I want it to work. I need to go change something out in my strategy. Yeah. To be able to do that with money that's sitting on the sideline versus having to go to your long-term investments, I think is hugely important. The other thing I wanted to focus on there as well is what the real interest rate is, because I think you highlighted this, OG. The fact that you don't have to touch that 10-year money means you can be more aggressive, or as aggressive as you should have been in the first place with that 10-year money. And what do you see with people that say, I don't need an emergency fund? They hedge their bet on their long-term money because they think they might need it, and they don't get the return that they could get if they had the buffer in place. So it's not the crappy return you get at the bank that you return. It's the fact that you can invest the money the way it should be. And then the second thing is, look at what you can do with your deductibles on your insurances, or your insurance in the first place. The Aflac Duck that gives you the short-term disability coverage that you should have if you don't have an emergency fund. You don't need the Aflac Duck anymore. You can rely on your emergency fund. That's what the money's for. Or that long-term, the money on your homeowners or on your car insurance. You don't need either of those. So you can really jack up those, lowers your insurance cost. It isn't the crappy interest rate you're getting just on that savings account. There's another aspect of this that I think we need to get into, and we'll tackle this next week as we work our way through emergency funds. How do we get a higher interest rate? And I think there's some work we can do there as well, OG.
A little bit. A few extra bucks.
All right. I think we already did, Doug. We already did the back porch. We talked about the movie screening. So we've got the movie screening coming up next Wednesday, stackingbenjamins.com/movie. Come on out and hang out with us and our friends, Tom and Don from Talking Real Money, who just put on a wonderful conference, the Retire Meet Conference out in Seattle.
The only guy in podcasting with a better voice than me.
I told him on his radio show while I was out there, I was lucky enough not to just be out there, but to also appear on his radio show with him. And I said, if I had your voice, I'd burn mine. I would just burn it. Yeah, it's incredible. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you know somebody that needs the 411 on emergency funds, you got it between today and Monday's show. And also, if you know people that are interested in what's this FIRE movement all about, the conversation with Amy Minkley is also one that I think is a great thing to pass on. Get that person fired up about this idea of financial independence. Good stuff. And maybe they'll end up wanting to go to Bali with you, which would be cool too, right? And I know we mentioned this last week. I know the reason why a lot of you are here is because you want to be doing better with your money. You're not sure which areas you're doing well in, which areas you're not doing well in. OG and his team have created a scorecard. And if you have not completed the scorecard, You can get your grade by going to stackingbenjamins.com/scorecard.
Grade. It sounds so ominous.
You earned every bit of that C-. Not that type of a score, but especially this is around asset allocation and moving your money correctly. We've talked for a long time on the show about just getting started. This is why we love the Simple Path to Wealth. Get started by shoveling money away. But if you're not really sure about your asset allocation and you're at that $500,000 mark or more, you need to get more scientific. That's who the scorecard is for. stackingbenjamins.com/scorecard. And you can answer a few questions and get yours. All right. That's going to do it for today. Doug, you've got it from here, man. What should we have learned on today's episode?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Amy Minkley. Financial independence is as much about lifestyle design as it is about the money. Once you have your money in alignment, there's still some work to do. Second, what's the right amount for your emergency fund? Base that on your expenses, not your income, and your ability to secure new work. And think between 6 months and 12 months to begin your journey toward having the right amount. And don't worry if you're hoping for more on this topic. We'll continue this discussion next Monday. But the big lesson? Don't assume that just because one precious asset goes up that they all follow in lockstep. Turns out that cubic zirconium's probably more of like a 2027 thing than a 2025 thing. I'm going to keep buying low, baby. Thanks to Amy Minkley for joining us today. To find out more about her fantastic 5 Freedom Retreats, head to 5freedomretreats.com. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcast, LLC, copyright 2026, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. And oh yeah, before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and how's the financial independence journey changing? Well, I'm emphasizing all kinds of words in that sentence. But here's the question. Which precious metal cha-chinged the cash register the most? If you said gold, well, that'd be fool's gold because the winning...
You're on the answer.
I jumped right into the answer. Stop rushing me.
Like, what the hell?
You wanted a short episode. We just jump into the end.
Just give him the answer.